I'll go check YouTube to make sure it actually is going live.
We are checking YouTube to make sure we're going live because we are a professional broadcast. And Pat, are we live?
I don't know. Hold on. Yes, we are. Look at that.
Look at that. I'm going to post it to Facebook so people have it. I sent the Wild Mongoose had requested a link. So somewhere Joey Graybeal's sitting out there, listen along. And welcome to the podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Tom, aka Mr. T, and below me,
I'm Pat, the putting penguin.
And we are fortunate to be joined by, of the 24 players, we have 3 of them in one car in Myrtle Beach. We have Gary Hester, Jeremy Nabonet, and Tim Talley. 2 of the 3 made the top 8. So this is a pretty big one. And Tim, even though he didn't make the top 8, completely crushed it coming out the gate with a -4. So welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Tim had the most important putt of the day. The very first pair both aced it on the first hole of the stream and made everybody else look good the rest of the day.
And I guess that contributed to the big thing that we know about this event that we're talking about, the World Putting League event at Hawaiian Rumble in Myrtle Beach, is that there's the first event that we know of in the US that there was some version of gambling on a website, Betfred, and one of their over-unders was hole number 1, hole-in-ones, and I guess the last 2 people that played aced it, and they went over. I don't know what the total amount was, but it was expected to be high. Pat's got it.
Yeah. You know, I should be more prepared. It's not like we don't podcast every once in a while. So the over-under on hole 1 was 25.5 for aces, and we ended up with 27.
And there you go. But I think what everybody wants to hear from, because you'll hear from us tomorrow as well. We'll be doing some things around the final, but we have some folks in Myrtle Beach that were a little bit closer to the action. Pat and I watched a mini golf event stream, 2 rounds on our computers, which was awesome. But these 3 played. Let's start with Gary. Tell us about your experience today in the course. You did pretty well.
I did. I mean, it was a challenge playing with balls that we just had in our hands just an hour or 2 before the tournament. I mean, they did let us hit them a few times yesterday, but not enough to get a feel. And starting out, you know, I aced the first hole, which is always a good feeling. Me and Newport were paired together, so we got off to a good start, and it kind of eased the nervousness a little bit. But as we went around, we noticed with very little time with the ball, it was a challenge to adjust on the fly. They were coming off the rocks more lively than we expected, and something I didn't expect, the ball was a little heavier. And once it got rolling, what looked like a good speed putt would often come up short. And I know Tim had trouble with a deuce putt. Olivia had one come up short that normally would have gotten to the hole. But it was a great experience. I mean, these people did a great job. I mean, these shirts they gave us, they're really comfortable. I love them. I mean, they're really nice. It was hardly a glitch once it got started, and it was fun. It was new. It was different. It was fun. The cameramen who were all around us were very respectful. They didn't get in the way. I mean, I don't remember a single time in 2 rounds where I had to go, oh, you know, he's walking in front of me or he's moving when he shouldn't. They did a really good job. So it was a great experience. And of course, you know, I played well. I was solid both rounds. I had a few glitches. Most of them were from the new ball. I didn't hit a lot of bad shots. Hole 7 last round, hit the spot I always hit, and it kicked into the wall. Newport almost did the same thing. But it's adjusting to the ball, and we're going to go back and out and practice tonight, me and Jeremy, and we're going to make those adjustments so we won't be doing it on the fly tomorrow.
Was it a different type of Chromax ball than the one we usually use?
This was the brand new one.
Oh, just brand new?
The newer version, the M5.
Oh, okay.
And, of course, they're brand new out of the box. They were slick. But they just, you know, had a different feel. Definitely kicked bigger off the rocks. Really had to be careful. But what we all noticed in practice when they gave them to us for a few minutes yesterday, when you first made contact, the ball almost went backwards. It had a backwards rotation for the first few feet on the harder hit holes, and then it would gather up and then run forward. And that's another reason a lot of the putts I think we're coming up short. People had to adjust to that slowdown out of the gate. And then once again, the ball was heavier. Then it slowed down again at the end of the roll. So it was an adjustment, but I was getting used to it there at the end. And I think we'll be fine tomorrow.
Well, and you guys were already playing what was a slower course because it was a little bit cooler than what we normally play. I don't know if it was damp at all. I'm trying to pull up the weather for tomorrow night to see what the difference is going to be because you guys are playing at night tomorrow or in the evening versus during the day today. If there's other adjustments you guys think you're going to have to make.
I think it's going to be definitely a little quicker just because the heat of the day, the carpet won't cool down that quick. And this morning when we played, because it was overcast, we had fog, there was a dampness to the carpet this morning that just didn't clear up that quick. And I think it was still damp in places as we teed off, other than the tracks that we were all hitting were drying out where we were walking, hitting the ball. But you could see it early into the first round. I could tell the carpet still had a little dampness to it, just from the early morning fog and haze that we had here. And once again, it was cool.
Yeah, and let's not let Gary get away from it. He played. He's like talking about he played like mediocre when he came in second overall with a -9. He obviously made the top 8, and to his right we have Jeremy and Abinet, who also made the cut. -4 came down to that last hole, and we got to watch it. And Brandon Davis missed, and Jeremy held his place. Jeremy, tell us about it.
So going into that last round, like there was a lot of spacing on the course, so there were only about 3 or 4 groups on the course at a time. And so I actually got the benefits of hearing scores come in, right? And so I know Tim came in, and I knew what his score was, and so my goal was like, well, I want to at least tie Tim, so we could be together from there. But I like to beat him. But for me, like coming into those last few holes, I was like, all right, I was 2 under, and then I hit hole 15. And then I was like, okay, I feel good because 17, I feel pretty confident about. It's like, I can post a 4. That's great. And I knew something was going on because when I came up to 18, Hester was at the top of the hill. I was like, well, he never comes out on the course. And when I got to 18, I was in practice some of this new ball. I'd been blasting it to that back rail. I was like, all right, I just want to make sure I'm going to just try to get it to the hole. I don't want to get it past. If I leave it short, that's fine. So I'll have an easy deuce putt. I'll be happy with a 4 under because the commentators were talking. They're like, we think the cut line is going to be 4. And I was like, all right, if I can do that, then I'll feel good. And then I came off, and he's like, hey, you're in. I was like, oh, that's great. I said, are there still people in the course that could beat me? He's like, no, you're good. And I was like, okay.
We had a sleeper.
Yeah. And I was like, all right, great. And so coming around, getting some fist bumps. People are like, way to go, Jeremy. You shot well. Good shot. I was like, yeah, good stuff. And then I looked up at the board, and I was like, wait a minute. I was like, Brandon is 1 under at like hole 10. And I was like, if you don't think that you can get 4 aces like coming in after hole 10, I was like, you guys are crazy. So we twist this back a little bit. There we go. So watching him, which was nice because with the production stuff.
This is live.
Tip it back.
I mean, to be fair, the streaming was a little bit better than this, so they got that.
We had
on
a low
us.
battery indicator from.
Oh no!
It's not charging. I turn it on to crank it up. We're trying to get the charge back up here.
Anyway, so Brandon, he aced 15, and then I was like, all right. So I watched him putt off on 16. I was like, if he makes 16, then it's gonna be tight. He hit it past 16. He makes 17. It's like, oh, he's gonna step up to 18, and if he makes it, then we're tied, and we go to a playoff.
Yep.
And I think Hester actually took a picture.
Uh-oh. Oh, we're losing him. Oh no. I mean, this is live YouTube. Oh, turn the camera. Oh no.
They're gone. I mean, this was par for the podcast. Let's be honest.
This is what happened when we did live streams in the past, and why we don't do them all that often. Jeremy and Abinet was just going to finish up saying that Brandon Davis was stepping up to hole number 18. I think he was the last player of the last group, even.
I can't remember. It was close. Yeah,
It was
if
close
was,
to
it was
like the
very
last
close.
player of the last group. He aces it. Him and Jeremy tie for 8th. There we go. We got the guys back. Maybe. Here we go.
Sorry about that.
Oh,
We had technical
got a little
difficulties.
crunchy audio.
Yeah, it's very crunchy.
Let's see. Is there something in front of your mic or next to the mic thing?
Just the charger. So that would be.
That might be doing it. Sadly, we can send we can send you the link and get Tim back on if you want to do that.
Hold on. We'll come back in.
I'm gonna send this to again live produced
Good
mini
stuff.
golf conversation. You don't get any of the edits that you normally get when we are recording a podcast live. So, and you get to see all that's behind me, including the mic in front of my face. But yeah.
I mean, we'll take this opportunity to talk a little bit about the stream itself. I mean, I would
really
say
nice.
exceeded expectations. I mean, we didn't know what because there was not a lot of information out there. But
How's that sound better?
Oh, that's good.
Perfect.
It's like the Berenstein Bears or whatever. Okay. All right. There we go.
And we were just talking about, even though we're having streaming issues, the stream of the event today was really impressive. I mean, minus some things that were like a little grainy, which you kind of have to expect with that many cameras. We saw quite a bit of play, and even the hole by hole stuff was really, really nice.
Cool.
And,
Yeah.
and to have somebody like commentating in real time, like that was.
Well, and Brian, having played the tournament and the course,
Yeah.
really
Yes.
helped too. I mean, he was able to provide a lot of a color to it. We actually jumped on another YouTube feed that was from one of the betting places who was like doing commentary on top of the commentary. But we were talking about some of the stuff there. So it was, but yeah, no, it was really great having Brian. And yeah, I mean, I thought for the most part, it dropped a couple times, but nothing huge. And the only audio problems they had were kind of in the beginning and some of the interviews. But after that, it was all really good. And I mean, I guess a lot of it played out because we were wondering, like, well, how is 13 going to look and 9? Like, where are they going to put the cameras? Because there's not a lot of good places on some of those holes, right? Like where they were basically got to stand right in front of you. But I mean, it came out pretty much the way we expected. And I mean, let's say I didn't do a lot of work today during the day because the feed was that good and I was that intrigued by what was going on.
And that's what we were watching it in the clubhouse. And like it was like, we're talking, I was like, if I weren't here, like this would be very interesting to watch. Like it was exciting to watch in there and we could just look out the out the door and see it live.
But everybody was inside watching it. Yeah.
Because you know how tough it is for the sight lines on that course to see anything that's happening for who's playing. So it was a nice treat for us from there.
Yeah. And I mean, we were commenting on Brian, like even, he probably hadn't been to the course in a few years, but most of the shots are working out. I think he kept coming, everybody kept coming up for 10. He's like, well, the shot is that they're going to hit the ball past the cup and then it's going to roll back up and come back down. And we're just like, no. But they even got that at the end, like where they corrected on the pronunciation of Jeremy's name and like how some of the holes.
I did hear that one time. I was going to walk over and tell him.
I walked over and told him. I was like, when they had a break in there, I was like, it's inhabitant, and he's like, sorry. And I was like, no problem. It's like in a cabinet, and so we're good to go. Like I don't think they're expecting me to do well, so I wasn't on the cheat sheet list of like interesting facts about putters, and that
the
really
phonetics of your name.
Yeah, I told him, I said that really drove me. I said they're gonna have to learn how to pronounce my name for tomorrow because I'm gonna be in the top 8 and they're gonna need some facts about me.
Yeah, you did tell me that before it started.
Yeah, I did.
And we were not going to let him off the hook because Tim still played really, really well, and we led that off. I know that he's not feeling good, but let's also like look at this pack, and it's a really, really good pack of putters. And on top of it, it's only 2 rounds. Like, one or two putts is it. Like you take a look at people where 1 or 2 putts is the difference between them being in in making the cut or not. Brandon had one putt at the end. Tim, he makes two more putts. He's, you know, what you would have been in. You and Rick Alessi would have been playing for you know, seventh and eighth place.
Yeah, because I had 3 threes that last round. I was clean the first round, and I'm looking back, and I shouldn't really had any of them. It was just, but we had discussed before it was going to be hard. You know, it's a good tough field. It's going you were going to have to play good to make the top 8. You know,
yeah,
you couldn't have a bad round, which unfortunately I had one, but that's the way it goes.
And for people. And for people that have never played Hawaiian Rumble, there are literally a couple holes where it's just like the difference between a hole in one and not is wild.
In that course, over the years, it's like in the Masters, I will have one really bad round there. And that's the one course that really gives me trouble. Aloha and Pineapple don't give me near the trouble that the Rumble does. And it bit me again today.
We were talking with the organizer yesterday, and they were asking us, like, what are the hardest holes on that course? And we were like, hands down, 14. Like, if you get an ace on 14, good for you. 14, 12, 11, 6. Those are the ones where you're like, all right. I'd like to get some luck here.
Yeah, 12 was eating people up today.
Yeah,
there was a lot of rough shots. 5 was eating people up. There was a lot of shots left short or weird positions.
Olivia missed a putt there.
Yeah, and she was up against the wall. Yeah, there was some interesting shots there. I mean, 11 does what 11 does. 14 does what 14 does. There was a few misses on 17 I was surprised about, but I mean, it is what it is at the end of the day.
And we had some guests. We had Tim from Access Mini Golf in Wisconsin checking in, who's watching and sending kind words out to our players, as well as I believe this is Alan.
That's Alan Cox. Yeah.
Alan Cox, the putt down under, watching along. This goes without saying, like a huge feat just to pull off a live streaming mini golf event. It is so difficult. If you look at this year, there hasn't been any, and last year there really wasn't either. All 3 of the gentlemen that we have here played in not only the 2 Pop Stroke events this year, but the one last year where they did do a produced video, but that was something they made where they chopped it up with only the doubles, and it came out much later. And, you know, there wasn't a lot. They unceremoniously, watching it, I was just like, how is it possible that every time they go to Rainey, they cut off Gary? Like, you were in the middle of a word and they cut you off. It was like uncanny that it was wild.
I got no respect there. I tell you, finish the top 10. There's over 100 people there. I'm not getting no respect.
Yeah, if you don't have like a weird quirky beard, or if you're not in the finals, like that event they didn't cover it. Versus this event, you saw a whole range of people that have not been on any broadcast events. They wouldn't have been on a streamed event overseas for, you know, some of the international competitions that get streamed. So this is really cool. I mean, seeing people like, you know, Carol Lessie, Alan Sharpton, you know, like all these people that, you know, probably are playing, you know, a little behind the top players. They're getting a little bit of a shine. And I'm curious because on the feed, you know, looking for like an inside scoop, they had mentioned that there's going to be like a season. Is there discussion already out there that there's going to be more upcoming events from the World Putting League already yet this year like this?
Yeah, I know they had mentioned they were using this tournament to get some good footage to try to pull in some more of the sports books and things like that, right? It's like, hey, look what you could be a part of, which I think they did fantastic with that. And there's talk of the South Carolina Open and the U.S. Open being involved in this, if I'm right. Yeah,
correct. They're going to try. It depends on how this turned out and how well it's taken.
And I imagine that the challenge with that is that obviously with this event, having 24 competitors and being able to kind of do it in a limited frame of time is a lot easier than with the Open and the Carolina Open, that
Yeah.
there'd be a lot more players, and those courses weirdly I think would do really well for broadcast, because Pat and I were surprised that they moved the broadcast over to Rumble, because that one is a little bit like stickier to like shoot on, and kudos to them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They did a phenomenal job. How many camera people did they have out there? It seemed like there's at least 6 or 7 at any
I
time.
think there were 4.
Yeah, I think.
Wow.
Four. Yeah.
I think it was 4.
They did a great job with that.
Something, yeah.
Like, because we were saying, like, if they needed to do it somewhere, they need to have a lot more camera people to keep a flow of a tournament going regularly.
Did they and they didn't have any cameras that were just like fixed in place then either, huh?
They had the ones for the wide shots, right? Like where they're showing you the view with the scoreboard stuff. But other than that, they didn't have any like for a hole, like where you just go to it and do that. I thought they were going to, but like theirs were just the ones for the background shots.
So Tim, since you're not competing tomorrow, and maybe you know some people in Colorado.
I don't. I wish I did.
Well, I have. Let's say I know some people in Colorado to make this even more awkward. Who are you going to bet on in the vehicle? I'm kidding.
We're in different brackets too. We're on opposite sides of the brackets. We wouldn't meet each other unless we made it to the finals.
Oh, that
Now-
would be really
now,
fun.
is that true?
reseeded.
Yeah, we read something about there being a reseeding, that if like there was like an upset that they would like re-bracket people. So maybe not.
Absolutely. You're right.
Oh, they did tell
They
us
did
about
say
that.
that. They're going to take the rounds tomorrow. In other words, once we play our rounds and if we win, they're going to reach seed possibly based on
The scores.
the scores.
Yeah, I
So
forgot about that, yeah.
So Jeremy, after he beats Joey, will have to beat you, and then that means he'll play either Olivia or Greg Newport. So Jeremy, what do you think you'll need to beat either Greg or Olivia?
That's the thing we're talking about is like the way the format is tomorrow. Like you could shoot the second lowest score tomorrow, and not move on to the next bracket, right? Like,
Right.
it depends on who
Yeah.
you're paired up with.
Yeah.
And then somebody could shoot like a 36 and still make it in there if two people have an off round.
Yeah.
But like I'm just looking at it like we play a lot of skins like when we go around and practice and stuff like that. I'm just treating it that way as like I'm just gonna beat you on the holes and let that be the score from there.
Yeah.
So
But joking aside, what scores do you feel like for yourselves feel good, and or do you think the way the course is playing you kind of are expecting to see tomorrow with a little bit more practice?
I think you're at the be at least 4 under.
Yeah, 4 under minimum, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to say I played bad when I shot 4 under, but I felt like I didn't play great when I shot the 4 under.
Mm-hmm.
When I shot the last round 5 under, I missed a putt that broke the way I didn't expect it to. It was a little more solid round, but I feel like if you get somebody having a hot day, they're gonna be around 30. They're gonna be 30, 31 pretty easily.
And it's going to be really different because like you're not thinking like, all right, I want to keep a safe score here. It's like it's all on the table in that round.
Yes.
And you're going to know exactly where you stand at every hole.
Right.
So you're going to think about where I'm going to take my chances and where I'm going to not in there. And then like, how are you going to play? So I'm sure there's going to be some holes that I wouldn't normally try like a certain shot on that I'd be like, I feel like I got to kind of push this one in there to throw a low score down.
Yeah, that's going to be something that's going to be really interesting as a watcher, knowing how those holes play and knowing as you get to, start to get 11 and 12 where you're sitting, the more aggressive shots that people are going to end up taking because you're going to need to, or safe shots to defend stuff. I was wondering if they had posted updated lines yet for tomorrow, but I didn't see anything on the book. It's trying to figure out if they had match lines and stuff but I guess you can't. I guess you can piss the overall winner, but you really can't do match by match because you won't know the second round matches yet.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. And I mean, and I think, something I was saying a little bit earlier is that there's some holes like one even where it doesn't feel as consequential when you're playing it 5 times in a row, but everybody's going to step up to it. And it's just going to be it's going to have a little bit more pressure when you're in the group. Are they going to, And knowing that, I'm assuming they're going to hold the same format where they're going to do the reverse, or they're going to do the switching back and forth honors versus like where you typically play. If whoever wins the hole in the group has honors and they hold it until someone beats them. But if I'm correct today, it was alternating honors every hole. So
Correct.
and so is that holding tomorrow as well? Do you know?
I don't know.
We haven't
we
heard,
think
but
it is,
I'm
we don't know.
thinking it will be. Yes.
Yeah,
Which I think is the more fair way to do it. That way,
totally.
somebody's not getting a read off of speed or things like that. You're like, oh.
And what were they giving? Were they giving you just 6 inches off the wall? Which I
Yeah.
know. So that's
They
a
had
little
a
bit
ruler.
different than what we're used to with the scorecard. That's got a little extra there.
Yeah. They actually had a ruler.
Yeah, that's what it looked like. But
And it's you're like, oh, that'd be fine. When you get to some of those putts, you're like,
Yeah.
that's tight. Like there were several putts that I mean, I have a putter that's not that big, and I know Joey has like a mallet putter that's like, I mean, he takes all but of an inch of that 6 inches with his putter. And there were several you had to just kind of push to hit it. Like you couldn't really get a stroke. You just like, I just got to push this and just trust the line.
Which makes Joey's number one finish, his 28 in the first round, -4 in the second round overall, -12, even more impressive. That shooting under 30 on that course is hard as it is, let alone doing that with a mallet, with the new rule, with the new balls is it's you know, good on Joey. I mean, I think we were watching, and I was telling them earlier that we were watching this betting site, and they're like, I think they'd seen the odds in Olivia, and they're like, oh, who's this stiff with Olivia? They just kind of assumed it was Olivia versus the field, and it's just like, this guy's won everything at this
Yeah, he
point.
was-
I have it on record. I wrote that he was my long shot over on Twitter. Tom can attest to that. So I put my fake money on Joey.
Yeah, that would have been a good.
Because he was what, like -800. For,
He was plus 800. Yeah, I mean,
plus
he was-
800.
for
Plus
somebody
800,
who's
yeah,
won
yeah,
the
that's-
Masters and
Yeah.
is there often, they weren't giving him a lot of due in the odds.
And in this format, one round, I mean, as much as people want to say like, oh, come on, there's got to be a favorite, there really isn't. I mean, you know, like everybody in the card, like what's your low round at Rumble? I bet everybody's been probably 30 or lower, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And tomorrow you shoot that round, they've all put it in the books. They can beat any of their opponents. There was was there only the one round that was under 30?
That's the only
Only one I'm aware of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did anybody even hit 30 on the button?
Yes.
Yeah.
Newport did.
Yeah.
Me-
Really,
Newport.
Alessi did too.
Yeah. Alessi did as well.
Yeah, first round. Yeah.
Newport and Alessi.
Wow. Yeah. And I see Alan Cox coming in here and saying his I believe his best round was a 31, and I somehow pulled the round of my life out of my ass. The first time I played the Masters, I shot a 30 bogeying 18 because I wasn't expecting to do that well, and I missed one. I just like, Pat got him on video, and someone looked at me after I made 3, and I did a David Lee Roth style like kick jump because I was just so like, what is going on? And then 18, I've never been more nervous hitting a putt. It's a course where there's no hole you can get away with like being casual with it. There's no putt that is guaranteed an ace. Even on like 9, if people watched, that straightaway putt looks easy, but that break from right to left is real, and you gotta really play close to the side, you know. And you know, you saw that Olivia, I didn't even know that she plays that righty because the huge advantage of lefty versus righty. How was 9 playing today? It didn't seem like people were really knocking it in.
It was tough.
It played a little tougher today. It did.
Yeah. I lipped out once and I missed the second time. And
I was 1 for 2 on it.
Yeah. And I had one the last round that it looked great, and then all of a sudden, like a few feet from the hole, it breaks right,
to the
which
right.
It does not normally break. I mean, it didn't break a little right.
We were all
It was like it just took a turn.
We were in the
I think-
clubhouse watching, and you know, everybody that plays that hole,
Yep.
they're like, "Oh, that's gonna break," and it got to the hole and just said, and we were like, "What happened?" Like we thought it must have hit something because it was that far.
It hit
right
my
that
putter.
was.
I think even the commentator Brian had noted that too, and you know, it was pretty phenomenal. I mean, we did like a little broadcast ourselves last year, and keeping up with all the players and how everything plays is tough. And Brian did an amazing job. It was just like such a treat to watch that out there, and hopefully it's archived. You know, I know Pat's playing hooky on work, so we're still trying to wrap this up. But I'm curious, get a couple final thoughts from you all before we wrap up on our own.
I just like to say I think the production of it and everything is so much better than what I anticipated. Because as Jeremy's already stated, I mean, watching it in the clubhouse was just awesome. You know, at first everybody had their phones, and then finally somebody had the idea of like, put that up on the, you know, they got the big screen TV in there, and it was just so much better than I ever thought it would be. It was just awesome.
Yeah, I was very skeptical coming in today, and I was pleasantly surprised how well it went and how organized. Like you said, you know, with the cameras, you know, they were fighting for sight lines to keep the flow. And I mean, I know we saw the guy early in the week. He was out there multiple times doing his homework and working on sight lines. He just didn't show up yesterday.
Yeah,
he had been here and brought his crew out, and they had worked on these sight lines, and they did their homework. It showed today. They did it was surprisingly run extremely well. I was happily surprised.
And what he saying? He's like, I severely underbid on this thing.
Yeah.
This is a lot
That's
more
what he
work
said.
than I
That's
thought it was
exactly
gonna
what he
be."
said.
He said, I thought I had a two-day job. He said, it's been.
He's like, I've been out here like every day for a month like, working this out. And they did a great job. I don't know who that crew is and what like company it is, but they did great. And the Pro League Network individuals, like
great.
spot on. Like
they were good. They were really good,
responsive. Like we got these nice shirts. The golf balls are great. Like they did a great job with the branding and everything. And it was
they did.
Very smooth.
It very smooth. It sure did.
And fun. What a fun format too.
Yes.
Because you're like 2 rounds. You're like, you know, like in the when you come down here for the Masters, you're playing 12 rounds. You're like, you got to be good a lot. And so giving a lot more people a chance to be up in there, and it was just a fun experience.
Yeah, I think everybody wanted to see how it would be, and it was sort of proof of concept. Can they pull it off? And they did. Like super well. It was something that I know that we're really excited to watch tomorrow night, and I'm hoping that that there's going to be an archival video that will be up there online for people to watch too, because you know, the longer that stuff is out there, the better it is for people to see, holy crap, there's people that can score these kinds of rounds on this course that's out there that people play on every year. And the more that we have of that in mini golf, the better. I mean, you think about people where it's really hard coming from, you know, out of town to compete on a course, but you get to look at the course in advance and you get to see how things play. And all of a sudden, you know, it might feel a little bit more inviting for folks. So yeah, we're going to be rooting you both on, Gary and Jeremy and Tim. Like, amazing effort. I know we're going to see you back in the hunt. You had amazing 2022 for Team USA, amazing finish in the Masters, playing awesome at some Pop Stroke events. So all three of you have just been crushing it, and kudos to you for putting on a good show today. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
guys.
Thanks for the support.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Well, Pat, it's you and I now. I'm gonna get in a little closer here, so I'm not pushing back. And actually, I'm gonna let you take it for a second because I have cats coming after me because they know it's time to be fed and they need to wait just a little bit.
Yeah, I'm surprised I don't have mine on top of me too. But yeah, while Tom's going away, I'm just going to echo what everybody said. I personally was exceeded expectations what we had. I mean, I think Tom and I talked a little bit as we were going into this that there just wasn't a lot of information out there. We didn't. Oh, look at the cat.
This is what I'm dealing with. They're going to get food soon.
Yeah, I mean, there just wasn't a lot of information out there. There wasn't a lot of promotion to it. We were struggling to find out where the bets were, where was it going to be streamed. So we went into this, I think, with a little bit of trepidation, and really, they pulled it off. And we'll see what tomorrow looks like. It'll be a lot different in the evening into the night, the course will look probably a little bit more. I mean, the lighting's really good there, so I feel like it's going to have that kind of holy moly, like nighttime, view to it. So I think they'll add something there. But yeah, I mean,
no one's ever played. There's never been a competitive tournament there in Myrtle Beach at night, as far as I know.
No, and I they really nailed it getting Brian to do the commentary, because like we talked about, he really kept the flow to it, kept people informed, could follow all of the action really well. And again, he's played the tournament, so could speak intelligently about what the players are doing, what the holes are, even if some of the stuff was dated. I mean, it's still more than you would get if you just pulled somebody off the street. So I mean, I hope they do a lot more with this. I was, I guess, not really surprised now that I think about it, but like the focus on the gambling, like we knew gambling was going to be a big part of it, but like to see it in all the graphics, I mean, every player had their over under going to the, and I certainly understand how it is. I'm a little bit dubious if that's the way that the future holds, because while sports gambling is an integral part of sports these days, it felt a little more heavy-handed here than you would see in other places. I know. See, I do this.
This is what you
I
missed.
piss Tom off so much.
I've got my mic on this thing, and Pat's like hitting his desk next to his mic.
Yeah, it's a bad habit. You'd think after, I don't know, 50 some odd episodes of podcasting and how many live things, I would learn to freaking control my hands.
You said it's the Italian in you anyways. So I mean, I think that's fair game. But before I forget, because I made the lineup list and didn't want to miss out on it. So tomorrow night it's at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, correct, Pat?
Yes.
And stay tuned for the podcast. I, at the very least, and maybe Pat, will be doing the Hammer Time live stream. Is that what they're called? The Hammer?
It's Hammer HQ.
Hammer HQ.
I'll find as you're talking, I'll find their actual YouTube.
And we're gonna talk with them just about it. I think they were coming in from a gambling point of view, and they're like, "Who's this guy?" Like they're like talking about Joey Graybeal earlier, and they're like, "Who's this guy?" And we're like, in the comments, like, this guy's probably gonna give a good run at it. And no surprise, Joey Graybeal, who we talked about earlier, minus 12 over 2 rounds, which is wild. He's the first seed. He's going to be playing Jeremy Anabonet, who had a minus 4, who we just talked with. Gary Hester, who you saw as well, had a minus 9, won in on the third hole in a playoff to take second. He'll be playing against Rick Alessi, who had a minus 5 and came in 7th. Greg Newport, one of the people that has had a perfect game of putt-putt, he had a minus 9, came in 3rd place. He'll be, unfortunately, setting up first round against odds-on favorite still, Olivia Prokopova, who had a minus 6 and had a really big comeback in the second round and closed out with 2 aces. And our final pairing that haven't talked about yet, Randy Reeves, who came in 4th with a minus 8, versus Matt McCaslin, who was in the final pairing with Olivia Prokopova at the Masters. He had a minus 7.
Didn't they play together today?
No, Joey and Olivia played. Randy,
weren't Matt and Randy already paired? So that's interesting. I didn't think about that.
So those two are going to end up playing together. And that's like the funny thing about these pairs. Like, you look at some of the pairs, and I think it was really intentional. Randy Reeves is a Masters winner. He's done really well at pop stroke events. He's an incredible putter that Pat had the good fortune to play with during the Masters. And, they put him with Matt McCaslin because they knew that they'd probably be favorites, and they got there, and they did the same with Joey and Olivia. That's a lot of pressure, though, too, because when you're not doing well against the person you're playing with, no matter what it is with competitive mini golf, it always feels bad. Like, if you're just creaming somebody who's not very good, you have no sense of where you are in a field. But when you're doing bad against someone who's good, you might be second place, but you would never know it in your own mind because you're seeing them. You're seeing all the putts.
Yeah. I mean, I think actually, before I get to this, so I did look it up. It's the Hammer HQ on YouTube. So they're going live at 6:20 tomorrow. They actually have their archive from today up. So you can go back and watch. I mean, it's got our commentary, his commentary and all the chat and stuff, but the stream is up there. So they have that there. So if you want to check that out on YouTube, that's there. But thinking about the pairings, I mean, that Randy and Matt match and the Greg and Olivia match. I mean, those
first round, one of them was not going to advance.
Yeah, one of those, two of those four are not advancing, and that is really, when you look at so 1, 2, 3 Masters winners. Matt doesn't have a Masters, despite what Brian said today, but he's got a ton of U.S. Opens, and one of them don't advance. And then you could have, I mean, we'll see what Joey and Gary do, from the top. But yeah, I mean, we talked about it with the guys in the car there. That's just, I mean, if somebody comes out like ace, 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 I mean, that's which I think Matt did today in his first round, or he aced the first. Like that is so much pressure after 3 holes to do that. So I think it's going to be really exciting. And the way they streamed it today, if it's anywhere near the quality tomorrow, I mean, I think they've got something really good here, and hopefully it's replicable going forward.
Yeah, and I think that's, that they kind of talked about, like, the production crew. That will be the interesting thing to see, because I think they need the gambling side of it to really hit in order to cover the costs of really producing an event like that. I mean, even, again, this might be seen as a negative comment, and I mentioned this to Pat, but it's awesome that they have the World Putting League, jackets and all that stuff and the balls. But, this is the same organization that helped set Team USA for the World Adventure Golf Masters, that doesn't give gear to the team and hasn't really supported and funded players going over to play in the World Adventure Golf Masters. So, they this event does need to. The point of it is, this event needs to make money somehow on the gambling side, and I don't know we know what that is. I've talked about it on the podcast, but there's a great New York Times podcast talking about that. It's the Wild West right now of sports gambling, and there's lots of lobbying done to open up the rules, but who knows what the future of it's going to be and whether it's actually lucrative. The crux of the podcast was, a lot of these big companies are not as profitable as they said they were going to be, and a lot of the states are going to be a little bit more dubious, because I think they were on board for the tax revenues that are not necessarily like flying in the door. What does this have to do with the game? It might play a part in whether we get more broadcasts. So it's a strange, bedfellows that, like, mini golf and gambling, in order to make it happen. But as we know well from even trying to produce some events ourselves, it's really, really hard to pull off a great stream. And this was incredible, like top to bottom.
Yeah. And we talked about, it'll be interesting to see what they have for other events. I mean, if they're pulling in some of these bigger events, it's a different dynamic. I mean, but if this is successful, I got to imagine outside the Open and the Masters that this is going to be the path that they go on for all of these. So, I mean, we'll see. But with that, I probably need to wrap up and get ready for tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll probably do something tomorrow night after the event is all over. We'll try to jump on here once again and do it on YouTube and share it out on Facebook. Leave us comments, jump in the stream. We saw Alan Cox and Tim. I'm not going to pronounce his last name, but he does Access Mini Golf. Jump in and throw in some thoughts, and really grateful to have some of the players. I think we'll try to get a few more of them in, but congrats to everybody who competed in this and did it under pressure. Congrats to the top 8. There were some really, really good putters who did not make it. Tony Vanador, Tim Talley. These are people that have done super, super well that didn't make the cut. And it's going to be a tight one. I'm remiss not to mention this, and I know Pat and I were messaging, was the only thing I didn't love about the stream is when Bob was talking about how he was making his courses harder. And I don't think he understands how difficult it is to play these courses as they are already. And I don't think they make them harder. They just make them more frustrating, as you could hear by some of the comments, just how some of these holes play. They're really, really not predictable putting. It's not you have to hope that some of the bounces, some of the conditions, and all of this stuff plays out well. And so I don't know if I love the bragging about, we got rid of all these bricks and we got this like weird, rocks and stuff, that this is better and it's going to make it harder for everybody. It's like, I don't know, but I can hear Pat's kids in the background. So Pat, I'll let you have the last thought on mini golf, and we'll be gone.
Yeah, I've been just looking forward to it tomorrow night. I mean, good luck to everybody. So many of our guests are playing already. So good luck, Jeremy, Gary, Olivia, Sly Mongoose, Joey.
Yeah.
We're
Way to go,
pulling. They're
Joey.
all our friends who are out there. So
Yeah.
it's exciting. Whoever ends up winning, and well, hopefully somebody's got some money on it and does well at the end of the day. And like Tom said, we'll recap it later.
Yeah, it's a great day for mini golf and people who enjoy watching it. So take it in, and hopefully we'll have more of this to watch down the road. But for the podcast, we're out.